It's another day here on the Splash Play NBA channel. We've got ourselves a big NBA slate. And hey, are you confused about the NBA Cup? Don't worry, we're going to figure that out today as well. In particular, focusing on the DraftKings slate today, though, because I'm not even touching on the last few games that aren't on it. We're going to touch on projections, ownership, of course, comparing my projections to Stokastic projections, as well as the ownership they have there. We're going to run some sim lineups on Stokastic tools. We're going to hop over to the world of Unabated, our presenting sponsor here, and we're going to go see what they think about everything on the slate as well in the prop betting markets to find you the must plays of this December 3rd, 2024. Oh my God, NBA. It's going to be 2025 soon. How horrific. Let's get into it here. Fun slate, $5 tournament on DraftKings today as well, which I feel like is always a fun one. I'll be throwing 20 entries in there while dealing with Luka and hoping I don't have to late swap too much. I'll give him a bath. But the main things to know on the slate today, number one, the NBA Cup games that really matter are going to be, actually I have it on this page over here. You got Milwaukee and Detroit. This matters for the winner of Group B for the NBA Cup stuff. And really, the NBA Cup needs to simplify this thing, I think, is my main takeaway after seeing the social media discourse around it, where there's like weird point differentials, in particular for the Western Conference side of things, which is nice that we don't have to deal with them on the DK slate. So I'm not dealing with it today, basically. It is relevant to FanDuel, though. Basically, those games, I think there's a bunch of teams still competitive. The Mavs, the Clippers, somebody else, don't misquote me on this stuff, but I did dig into the East stuff. So basically, Milwaukee, Detroit, the Bucks need to not lose by more than 6 points. If they do lose, Detroit needs to not lose by more than 5, because basically that would knock them out of the wild card most likely. Really, though, they both need to win to actually make the next round of the NBA Cup, so that one matters. And in the Orlando Knicks game, this basically decides the winner of Group A. Orlando is actually very likely to get the wild card, whether they lose or not. The Knicks need a win to advance. So the Knicks, who already play comically long minutes rotations anyway, probably going to play even more comically long minutes today. That's your main takeaways. The Western Conference ones, again, I'm not touching on. So those are going to matter for FanDuel. If you're playing on FanDuel, sorry. But I've been pretty clear. There's a DraftKings show, and today it's really a DraftKings show where I did not do anything. No, what? Shut up. Shout out to the chat, though. Like Mullen Lobby talks too much for somebody I don't know. And what a greetings, sweaty tryhards. Is a weird clip here. Chat starting hot today. Let's get into the stuff that matters here, the numbers. We got Giannis, top projected player on the slate for me. I have him at 62.1 fantasy points. Stokastic has him at 60.7. Going to be low owned today, under 10% ownership for the field. I'll have him at 8% in sim-wise. But Giannis overall looks like the best play in the slate. The issue, getting to a 12K guy, a little bit tough. You're going to get to him, though. Again, they're playing to advance. These guys, the Knicks put out some quotes talking about wanting to win the tournament. I guess Brunson in particular wants to win the tournament for the minimum salary guys, the G League guys on their team, because it means $500K for them. Whereas Josh Hart's like, I want to get a watch. But really, that's sort of the way teams are viewing it, I would think. So expecting Milwaukee to go pretty hard. Giannis, to me, probably the highest ceiling player on the slate, and also the best projected for me as well. Karl-Anthony Towns looks pretty good. I do have him about 5 points higher than Stokastic does. I'm at 53 compared to 48.4 for them. As a result, I'm getting 27% in the sim. They're projecting 9% field ownership. Towns a strong play. Knicks playing to advance here. Towns, to me, always a good play in every slate. Tough matchup on paper against Orlando, but the lower pace spot as well, which means he'll be in position to kind of do what he needs to do every time. It's how I tend to look at the big man spots in slower pace matchups. For Karl-Anthony Towns here, I like him a lot. I'll get him a lot today. And that sort of sums that up. Knicks have to win to advance in the NBA Cup for whatever that means. SGA, 51.6 for me compared to 53.1 for Stokastic. Looks good in both metrics. Would look better with Stokastic's numbers. As a result, you're getting them 14% there for the field that they have. I'm at 6%. SGA, fine, but I actually prefer Hartenstein on the same Thunder team. Luka Doncic, 50.9 is the projection for me today. They have been 57.7. One thing that I tried to really go through and play with the projections a little bit to figure out where I wanted to be in terms of weighting this season as it relates to last season, because basically a lot of your projection sites out there, Stokastic, SaberSim, all of those, they run a longer term sample, generally running back a couple years, and it'll kind of de-weight the years as time goes on. So this is just like kind of talking at my ass a little bit, but it is, what most projection sites do. So the exact numbers will vary, but let's say 2 years ago, they'll count those numbers for 33%. Then they'll count last year's numbers for 50%. Because this year's a smaller sample size, they'll count it for 20% or something like that. You know how the math works. For me, what I do is I'm trying to weight this season as much as I can get there close to last season, because I tend to think that in basketball, players show you who they are in a new way every year based on team situation, based on their production. So as a result, Luka's been underproducing this year in terms of per 100 numbers. So I'm getting him less projected overall, about 7 points less. His fantasy points minute have been down to about 1.4 this year. He's not playing like the same Luka historically. Can he go to another level today? For sure. But I have him low. I'll get him in like 1% of lineups. Stokastic will get him in 9% of lineups in general. And again, I explain a lot about the projection stuff because it can be confusing to see like, oh, why are you so low here? I probably over-explain it. In reality, though, like these are the little things that allow your projection set to be unique, whatever they may be. So for me, I like mine to have some level of uniqueness that I think makes sense to me and how I view the data. So that's sort of how I would approach things on my end, but your mileage may vary. Franz Wagner, and as always, please feel free to default to Stokastic numbers because that's the industry leader. I'm just a guy. Franz Wagner, 48.6 projection for me, 45.4 for Stokastic. This is also the benefit you see from weighting the current season a little bit more. Franz Wagner is going nuts. When you weight the current season more, you get more Franz Wagner as he keeps putting up these monster days. That said, sometimes if a guy is kind of showing who he is in a way where, like, let's say Banchero came in today, I'd probably have Franz Wagner over projected because it's reflecting a situation where Franz has been playing so well, Banchero's back in. It's not going to be the same Franz Wagner at that point. Right now, though, with them playing for an NBA Cup, advancement here that they're probably going to get no matter what, him getting more minutes here, projected for 37, I like him a good amount today. So still doesn't matter a lot relative to the sim ownership. Only got him at 2.7%. But I can say I was thinking before the show that I'm probably going to force in certain guys. Franz Wagner is one guy I'm going to try to make sure to get exposure to because I do have him fairly highly. Competitive game against the Knicks. And he projects better for me than the field will have him projected. So those are kind of things that I would push towards. Similarly, Wemby, who's been underperforming this year, I have him low today. Getting Jeremy Sohan back in the mix is not good. Sohan was really dominating usage in a way he absolutely should not when he was in earlier in the year. Maybe a few weeks off, new coach as well, who's definitely leaned into Wemby more as being the pure facilitator of the offense. Maybe that'll make this a different situation. But Wemby, I have at 48.4. Stokastic has at 56.2. As a result, I'm getting no Wemby. They're getting 9.4. But not a great matchup versus Phoenix. It is good in the respect that they have no centers left, really, besides Plumlee. In terms of true centers, you're going to have Nurkic out tonight. That's a big part of it. But still a team that does slow down, low-pace spot. I'm not crazy about Wemby tonight, but please feel free to default to Stokastic here because they have them substantially higher, about 8 points higher than I do. And that was one, too, where I was trying to play with his rates a little bit, but having Sohan back in, doing whatever he's been doing, just throws off the arithmetic enough that I find it hard to play Wemby tonight, but the field will be there at 9%. So if you want to at least be with the field, try to do that. Brandon Miller is one of those players who should soak up a lot of opportunity with LaMelo Ball out again. I have at 48 fantasy points today. Stokastic has been 42.1. Get a good matchup on paper overall for him. The issue really for Brandon Miller is like how much can he really do as the number one option on an offense? That's been good sometimes this year, not so good others. He's probably going to have Paul George on him for whatever that means at this point in Paul George's career, at least for a good portion of the game. What can he do here? I'll tend to err on the side of him doing okay, given the fact that Charlotte is still getting a 103-point implied total. That said, 4.5-point dogs at home, one of the lower totals on the slate. So not a great expectation of a ton of points for Charlotte here, but Brandon Miller, it feels like to me, has to do the scoring. That said, the way that I view basketball is like I try to view the outcomes relative to the projection, the implied totals and all that, build everything backwards from that. Yesterday, that had me on plays that did not go well. Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo, I'd said on this stream, and I believe on the Stokastic stream as well afterwards, did say that like for the Heat to stay competitive in that game, they had to have Hero and Bam Adebayo doing a certain amount of production. The issue is they didn't stay competitive in the game. So I think it's the same thing here for Charlotte, where like Charlotte, Philadelphia's at least got a couple guys that could put up a lot of points. They have Paul George, they have Maxey, still no Embiid, obviously, but they have Jared McCain who's put up some points. They can run away with this game, but if Charlotte stays in it, like the total says they should, Brandon Miller's got to do a certain amount. Micic has to do a certain amount. So that's the way to try to view it, I guess. Sim-wise, though, this is a lot of ownership, assuming a competitive game with a team that's not that good. Philadelphia is also not that good, so that's sort of the trade-off here. Looking at some of the numbers here, the stats factor in the Emirates Cup motivations. No, so it should be. Okay, fair enough. Thank you for the 411. I appreciate that. PG is who Miller molded his game after his favorite player. All right, interesting take here by Clipper Nation. Look, I hope so. I like Brandon Miller. He's going to get 38 minutes as the minutes projection today at 37.7. So I'm a lot higher than Stokastic. And he's put up, 50 fantasy point days enough times this year. I'm taking the shot, but I don't know if I'm actually going to be at 76%. That's just what's coming up in the top 150 sim lineups before the show. Cade Cunningham, 47.2 compared to 48 for me. Not a big projection difference there. I'm not getting him at all. So Cass only getting him at 3.1% of the time. So not a lot to love there. Hartenstein, 47 is my projection compared to 40.4. He's been a monster so far this year, has Hartenstein. He's averaging 1.27 fantasy points per minute. Given the matchup here against a not-so-good Utah team, I'd have him at 1.43 fantasy points per minute today. Granted, kind of an aggressive projection, but that really mostly reflects how good he's been this year, along with how he's been fairly good throughout his entire career. But I do have him a lot higher than Stokastic, so you want to chase my number, Hartenstein's going to be a key play. I got him at 73% of the sim lineups, top 150, but the field will be at 19%. I would at least get to that 19% on Hartenstein based on my projection. Damian Lillard, have him at 45.7 compared to 45.4. Not a priority play at 9,500. Scotty Barnes, one big discrepancy. I think they have Scotty Barnes overprojected. I honestly don't even get how they got to 49.8 for him. I'm at 45.1. I think the issue is that they're allotting him a lot more production that's going to guys theoretically I'm low in Jacoby Walter as well, but like the Agbaji, Jacoby Walter tier, I think they're a little bit lower on. No, honestly, they just kind of have extra points for Barnes. Yeah, I don't know why they have so many more points for Barnes. I think Barnes is a good play. He's still a 5.4x value based off my metrics. But for Stokastic, he looks like an absolute must play. Like, don't avoid him no matter what. So Scotty Barnes will be 65% owned by the Stokastic projection for the field. I'm getting him in 37% of my sim because I am a little bit lower, but still looks great. Again, a 5.4x value no matter what. Tyrese Maxey, another 5.4x value. Jalen Williams, Donovan Mitchell. These guys are a little bit further behind. RJ Barrett still looks good to me in this spot. I'm at 42.2. Stokastic has been at 42.5. His usage is trickling down a little bit since Barnes has been in, but not so much. You should be afraid to play him still. Barrett and Barnes, I think, both strong plays against Indiana. And again, they're probably the ways this game stays competitive with a 117.8 implied total. They're 3-point dogs at home against Indiana. So that's one of the higher total spots on the slate. Indiana, though, not as fast of a pace as they played in previous years. They're playing a little bit slower this year. All right, let's look at the value metrics real fast, and then we'll go game by game. Of course, at 4:30, we'll hop over to the World of Unabated, look at some betting markets as well. So if you want to get in your pick'em slips, along with any prop bets you want to place on the primary sportsbook, DK Sportsbook or FanDuel, we'll show you those in a moment as well. Let's sort by value here. I don't even know what this is about, but what no. Isaiah Hartenstein, overall the top value for me on the slate. And even though he's not a value at all at 7,300, I worry about the bottom falling out a little bit. That said, he's just been a monster, has rebound upside, has block upside, has some amount of steal upside as well. Look, he's been producing well his entire career. Now he's finally a starter. There's nobody threatening him. He's the only center they really have. So Hartenstein to me is the big stand here. You want to fast forward to what my splash play of the day is. It's probably Hartenstein. Micic is another one for me. Getting him at 83% of the sim lineups I ran before the show, 150 set compared to the field's 58. Really no point guards left for Charlotte now that you have Trey Mann out along with LaMelo. As a result, Micic in the last year and change has been about a 1.03 fantasy point per minute player in that core time without any other lead guards out there. This spot here, he's really the only guy who can kind of create offense besides Brandon Miller that they have right now. Martin can to some extent. But really, like, Micic is the point guard. He's going to get a lot of opportunity to run an offense and get his own shot as much as he wants along the way. So I like him here. Not a crazy projection, I feel like, for 32 minutes. He can do well. He can also put up 25, and that's probably a game that you need to have the absolute nuts around that for that to win you money. But he's going to be highly owned enough here. I don't think he's a play to move away from, at least based on what I'm seeing so far. Brandon Miller, despite him being, again, an 8K guy, he's another top value for me. I have him at a 6X projection here. Hopefully you can exceed that today. Karl-Anthony Towns, 5.8X value for me. The guys that I am higher on than Stokastic are all popping up a lot here. Hartenstein, Brandon Miller, Karl-Anthony Towns. I'll be 3X the field on him today. Ty Jerome, I've been projecting him well the entire year. It's paid off enough. On a slate where there's not crazy value, I think he's an okay pivot to Micic if he were to fail. Okay addition to Micic as well. The issue is he's going to get 20 minutes here. They're not an NBA Cup competition or anything, so I guess he get a little more minutes with the starters not playing extra. But Ty Jerome, you got to hit that upside pretty fast for him. He can do it, though, so I'm at 10.7% sim exposure compared to 3.6 for the field. Jonas Valanciunas got 30 minutes last time out. He's projected for 21.8. He is somebody that I might manually boost up a little bit. I don't know why he would get a ton of minutes last time out. It was Kuzma being out. It was a matchup against Milwaukee. So, like, it's not one where it's like, oh, you got to get Jonas Valanciunas in there to play a bunch of minutes. In this spot here, where you're actually playing big guys on Cleveland's side, I would think for Jonas Valanciunas, him getting to 24, 25 minutes is pretty reasonable. So nice value, price tag at 5,200. Some upside as well. I think the 36% field exposure probably feels like about right. You could get more. You lock and load him in if you want and hope he gets that 30 again, but there's no guarantee he gets the 30 again. Scotty Barnes, pretty good value for me, though I will not be as high as Stokastic today at 65% ownership. Got to think they're going to knock that projection down a little bit as they get closer to lock. Maxey, John Collins, who I'm always high on. I'm at 40.3 today compared to 33.9. He's been good on the year. Frankly, one of the only bright spots of Utah so far, to the point where actually might get a decent trade for himself. I don't know what team's going to trade for him, but he's produced well enough, rebounding well, assisting a little bit better than he should. So I have him at 9% ownership compared to 3%. That's about it. Obi Toppin's one I'm getting a lot of. Again, there's no value on the slate. Toppin's 3,700. I don't really like that play, but it does pop into lineups, make lineups work well. If something else value-wise opens up, Toppin should go away. But for right now, Toppin at 19.9 projection for me, 19 for Stokastic. He looks okay. Let's go game by game here. Probably a lot of time on the values and all that today, but it is what it is. All right, Philadelphia, 107.5 implied points. Charlotte, 103. We've talked a lot about the Charlotte side of things. Maxey looks pretty good to me, getting more than the field expected, 11% exposure. I'm getting 19%. Paul George, I'm getting 13 compared to 4.5. Paul George has been producing pretty well in the year, 1.1 fantasy points a minute in this spot against Charlotte with no Drummond, no Embiid as well. A lot of rebounds to go around for these guys theoretically. Like him getting a few more there would have me at 1.3 fantasy points per day. Basically, he's been producing pretty well in every category. And Maxey doesn't rebound. McCain doesn't rebound. Yabusele barely rebounds. So they're going to be rebounds to float around here. And Paul George could soak up enough here, I think, to give him a decent projection. Jared McCain, weirdly, just doesn't look that good for me. I've been having him pretty well all year. That said, I have him at 26.1. Stokastic has him at 26.4. Not a priority play with under 1% projected ownership. Yabusele looks okay, but at 5,700, a lot of that ceiling's been priced out. That said, he should grab some more rebounds today. Should be productive enough. He's at 0.91 fantasy points a minute on the year. I didn't goose anybody's rates, though, because I just don't have enough of a feel for court time without Embiid, court time without Drummond for all these guys. Yabusele might be a little bit worth a higher projection, but I don't think it's a priority no matter what. 6.7% field ownership for him. I got him 5%. Oubre, a little bit of. Caleb Martin, a little bit of. Nothing a priority there. Charlotte, ton of Brandon Miller, as I've talked about. Somebody has to score here. This is assuming that Charlotte scores the 103 implied points that they get. It's assuming they can hang in this game. If they don't hang in the game, if somehow Philly boat races them, Brandon Miller's not going to get there. So this SIP ownership for me is a lot. I could knock it down a little bit. I'm sure I'll naturally knock it down a little bit by putting more uniques into my lineups that I do run tonight. But I do think for Brandon Miller, it looks like a great play. If Charlotte wins this game somehow, or even if they just stay in it, probably because Brandon Miller put up 50 fantasy points or so. Besides that on Charlotte, getting a lot of Micic, as I mentioned, 83% of him compared to the field's 58. Sajan Salon getting 36 compared to the field's 47. Not an exciting play, but another guy who's shooting a little bit better is probably what could help Charlotte stay in this game. He's at 44% true shooting on the year, though, which is pretty bad. Micic's at 39%, but he's like at least a pro. Should be a little bit better, but that's that. Miller and Micic, let's rock. I hope so, because I'm going to get a lot of those guys. Salon, I don't feel as good about, and honestly, his minutes projection is kind of low at 28. There's one point where he's getting into the high 30s, but with Nick Richards and Mark Williams being back in right now, there's a less minutes expectation there. So watch out for that. Mark Williams, his first game, I think, of the year. Nick Richards also came back in over the weekend, so he's definitely going to go. The setter minutes are going to make Charlotte a little bit weirder as well. Washington, 109.3 on their side. Cleveland, 125.3. So a 16-point favorite for Washington. Can this scroll just nicely? There we go. Jordan Poole, 9% for me. Field to be at 12%. Not a priority, but does benefit from Kyle Kuzma being out. Brogdon also over the weekend. Poole and Brogdon kind of went nuts in one game. Something that I think would be hard to happen versus Cleveland, but if somehow they were to outperform this total, it would probably be because Poole and Brogdon had pretty good results, if I had to guess. Alex Sarr got 10% compared to the field's 9. whatever. Alex Sarr not playing center and Jonas playing more center is not good for Sarr. Sarr's biggest upside when he went on that kind of hot run of fantasy was really Jonas not playing alongside of him. Sarr came over and became the true center. If it's not going to be the case in a lot of matchups, it seems now, I probably wouldn't want Sarr quite as much. Valanciunas looks good, as I talked about here. You could probably project him for 24.8 minutes. If you did, you'd have him in every lineup. That said, he's projected for 21.8 here, so he's coming in for me 25% of the time, 36% in the field ownership expected. I think you get more of Valanciunas to not feel bad about it, but you run some risk that he doesn't see that 30 minutes. But that said, I don't know why he would get 30 against Milwaukee and not get 30 against Cleveland. That would make absolutely no sense. But Washington's not a great team, so bad teams do bad team stuff. Cleveland, very high total here. Nobody looks that great. Get a little bit more Mobley than the field, a little bit less Mitchell, a little bit more Darius Garland. All these guys, max 10% ownership. Jared Allen, the field to have it 17%. I'm getting 12. Ty Jerome getting 11 compared to 4, but no big stands here. I think getting a Cleveland Cav in any lineup feels okay. Washington, certainly high-paced team, getting about 3 possessions here for Cleveland, but not a team that plays good defense either. So something could go off here, but the price tags kind of account for it all. Mobley would be my preferred play. Allen, I'm okay with. And Mitchell, you could take. He just doesn't project that well for me. Milwaukee, 112.8 is talked about. This one matters for the NBA Cup. Both teams playing to win in advance. Giannis looks good to me at 8% sim ownership compared to 6 for the field. He's the highest projected player in the slate. The issue is there's no value, so it's hard to get that 12K price tag and feel good about it. And there's some okay power forward center plays besides him, so not a priority on a slate. He has the upside, though. Lillard looks borderline playable to me. Nothing else on Milwaukee side. Detroit, everything looks bad. They're all kind of mispriced. Cade's a little bit overpriced. Ivy's definitely way overpriced. Seems like he's carrying some of the court time without Cade Cunningham price tag forward. Nothing I like on Detroit's side, so let's just save some time. That said, tournament options for sure. They're playing for the NBA Cup. Maybe see the minutes get pushed a little bit more, but still not great minutes projections as it is. Orlando, our other main NBA Cup game on the DK main slate. Again, not worrying about the Western Conference NBA Cup games because it's too much. And I'm not playing those slates anyway, so I'm just playing the main slate on DK. Orlando, 105.5 implied points. New York, 110 implied. Feels like a low total for these teams. Obviously, Orlando, good defense. Knicks used to be a good defense, but plays a decently low pace here. Both teams around a 96, 97 pace, so not a lot of possessions. I'm not getting a ton of these guys. Got a little bit more Franz Wagner, but only 2.7%. A little bit more Jalen Suggs, but only 10.7 there. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, basically flat with the field there. Not a lot to love price tag-wise. My big stand would be Towns again, as he is on most slates, and frankly, it's been a play that's worked out more often than not. Towns, I'm getting 3x the field, getting a little bit less Brunson, a little bit more Hart, a little bit more Anunoby, but these guys all under 10% plays besides Towns, who I think is worth getting up higher at 9,200. Again, Knicks, basically, if they don't win this game, they're eliminated from the NBA Cup. If Orlando wins this game or loses, if they win, they're advancing, obviously, no matter what. If they lose, then they could still just advance anyway because they have the highest point differential of any of the teams competing for a wild card in the NBA's Eastern side of things for the NBA Cup. Indiana, 120.8 implied points. Toronto, 117.8. Not a lot for me to love up top for Indiana. Halliburton, I'm always low on. That's going to be the case again here. And it's a road game, so really, play him if you want. I'm sure he's going to regress positively on the road home splits overall. But he's been really bad on the road, and he's been bad in general since they traded for Siakam, so I'm cool never getting Halliburton, basically. Siakam, I'm low on as well. These guys all just have a lot of split usage. As I talk about a lot here, you now have 5 guys all around 22 to 25% usage. Nobody stands out there. Halliburton obviously assists more, but honestly, he's assisting basically the same rate as McConnell. So Halliburton just gets a good amount of minutes. He has occasional upside games. I'm not going to be there. Jarris Walker on a slate with no value looks okay. $3,900 salary. That's basically the reason why. Obi Toppin, same thing. $3,700 salary. I'm getting him a lot. I really have no feel for Obi Toppin being good, but I do have him projected for 0.95 fantasy points per minute today. That said, nothing looks that great here. The cheap guys' value is it for me. Even Miles Turner, who I get a good amount on slates, I'm really low on. Feel to be a 16% on him. So you want to chase the ownership? Miles Turner, a good center play. Siakam, maybe a better play than I'm giving credit here, but I don't see it with my numbers. Standard paces are hard to play. Yeah, I've been even playing like Mathurin a good amount lately, but 7K is a little bit too much for him. Like they're all just creeping up in price besides Halliburton, who should be basically flat in price with everybody else at this point. So not a fun team to play, but high total game Indiana Toronto here, 148 combined points is a lot. Barnes getting him less in the field here. Stokastic will have you getting 65% of him. Love Barnes. He's playing point guard basically for the seam. He's 8,300. That works, but Barrett takes enough usage away. Pirtle takes enough usage away. It's hard for me to really force my way to Barnes if he's going to be that chalky. But a lot of teams will live and die by Barnes tonight. I do have Brandon Miller projected slightly better. So that's part of why I'm not getting as much Barnes too. Barrett looks good to me still, putting up good usage, even though the usage is trickling down. He's now at 30% flat usage on the year, was closer to 32% before Barnes came in. That said, Barrett probably going to level out closer to 28% soon. Still a high usage player here, at least until quickly gets back in. Pirtle, less good play to me. I'm getting, good amount of Barrett, good amount of Barnes, about a third of my lineups. Only 10% Pirtle for me. 3% Chris Boucher, nothing else on Toronto's side. Utah, 104.5 implied points. My John Collins projection still standing out here, but his salary at 7,400, not as appealing as it's been in the past. I'm getting 8.7% sim exposure to Collins. He's at 2.5% for the field. Really, the big thing is that Markkanen's been underplaying this year. Collins has been great. As a result, I'm getting a good amount of Collins. Markkanen, if you want to buy in at a low point, you can, but the price tag is 7,200. Still really not that playable yet. Item has a 4.2x value, basically unplayable to me. Would be Markkanen right now. Walker Kessler getting 4%. Sensabaugh getting 5% as a value on a slate where there's no value. Nothing here stands out too much for Utah besides John Collins, and even then, only getting him in 9% of lineups, which is not a crazy big stand to me by any stretch. Oklahoma City, think you got some viable plays here. Hartenstein is the big stand for me. Got him at 73% of my sim lineups here. I could knock that down. I could not. I think lineups with him and Towns will feel pretty good to me right now based on the projections. Again, I have him about 6.6 points higher than Stokastic does. SGA, he's on the thumbnail. I thought he'd be more of a priority play for me this morning. He's not really, though. A 6% sim exposure for me compared to the field's 14. So he'll be played decently. Good game environment, theoretically playing Utah. They could put up a lot of points. That said, Utah hanging in, tough to expect. Even only has a 13.5 point dog. OKC's really good, very efficient. Utah, neither. So that's how that looks. Not getting Jalen Williams very much, 4% compared to the field's 4.6. Getting Isaiah Joe, again, 3,700. The slate, you need a player, 3,500 to 4K, who works basically no matter where, has a decent projection just to make some lineups work correctly. So Joe, not a good play, but he's coming up for that reason. Memphis, 119 implied points. Dallas, 123. Not much at all for me. My highest exposure in this game has been Brandon Clark, 5% exposure for him, getting a rounded up 5% for Jalen Wells. Everybody else here appropriately priced and under projected relative to that appropriate price. So you want to take your tournament shots, you can. The game should be competitive, but these guys all look kind of low to me. So they really are just pure tournament dart throws to get to. Really nothing to like this game besides the fact that should be competitive and the total's pretty high. Isaiah Joe's been that kind of play all year. A lot of guys are that kind of play all year, I feel like. Jalen Smith's another one. Ty Jerome's been one for me a lot. Just guys you get because there's no value really to go to. And yesterday we had some good value open up theoretically. Even Tyrese Martin got there late, but yeah, not so much today. All right, San Antonio, 111.3 implied points. This is the last game, I think, of this main slate. Yep. Phoenix, 118.8 implied points. Again, just doing DK slate to keep the video nice and tight. As that's how we like it, right, boys? High five. We got San Antonio, 111.3. Still have the upper respiratory infection. And boy, when I laugh sometimes, gets me right in the lungs. Stephon Castle, 13% ownership. I'm not there. Chris Paul, 15% ownership. I'm not there, only at 9%. Devin Vassell, I'm higher on, 11 compared to 7% field ownership. Wemby, we talked about here, really low on. Sohan, none of him. He's center only. It's insane. Castle ownership feels high. People like Castle a lot, I think. I agree. It's not really it. But yeah, I don't get it. Castle project for 9 minutes looks pretty good. But when you have Sohan back in too, Sohan's been gunning. For Sohan standards, 24% usage, rebounding at a 14% clip, assisting 17. That's a lot of possessions to get gobbled up by a guy that's not playable on the slate at center. If you want to get unique, though, playing Sohan at center, nobody's going to do it tonight because it just doesn't make sense. The projection doesn't look great. But yeah, him coming back in, these guys aren't priced for Sohan to be in, which sounds kind of dumb, but it matters if he's going to take away, 40% of the possessions when he's on the floor between usage and assist rate. Sohan just kind of throws things into the muck a little bit here. So I'm not surprised I don't get anybody. Vassal I could get because at least he's a high usage guy. You could theoretically put up a lot of points fast. Everybody else here, I don't know, you get to. Phoenix 118.8 here. Iguodaro, Iguodaro. I know my pal Josh Engelman mentioned on Stokastic's strategy show this morning that he thought Iguodaro was one of the best plays in the slate. I don't really know how you could feel that way at 0.73 fantasy points a minute. I'm at 0.8 today, missing Nurkic on their side. Still a tough play to love, but I got him in 18% of the Sims. Royce O'Neal getting 11% of the Sims, with him projected for 22.5 minutes. He's been pretty good on the year. Again, not really a great play, but a semi-value at 4,500. Not getting much Booker, 3% compared to the field 6. Not getting much Durant, 5% compared to the field's 11. Not a lot for me to like in this game, but Iguodaro, he's like a really not good center. Like I think at least watching him, I don't feel strongly about it. Producing a little bit. So Iguodaro is legit value, getting minutes, 22.5 minutes projection here. I get why Iguodaro would be a play, and I have to say, if Josh says he's a good play, he's probably a good play. I have no thoughts on that. Let me pull him up real fast. Jaren Jackson, just looking at my numbers, look at unabateds in a moment. But Jaren Jackson, I would have at 26.3. I had him at 27.1 PRAs. So we're talking about right there. I would take the over if it's plus money. If not, you can go either way. I would honestly just take whichever one's plus money if you have one, if that's an option. All right, let's go to Unabated next. We'll see if Unabated has some good lines for Rhode Island sports bets or others. But let me pull this up. And of course, we got to show that video so you can learn about the world of Unabated and their conditional NBA projections right now. Like me, the Pornhub of NBA projections. Of course, you got dynamic additional projections. Are players in? Are players out? They're going to tell you what the good bets are no matter which option you're choosing. News? Do you like news? Why am I getting so raspy? Do you like news? You got some goddamn news on Unabated. They're going to give it to you. Oh, we got some graphs. Did you see him click that graph button? You got a graph. You got a graph. You get a graph. You get a graph. Oprah style. Community, you can chat away with other similarly minded gentlemen, and probably not a single lady would be my guess. Maybe one. 1 to 5. Count your money. Unabated.com. Promo code SPLASH. Unabated. I'll tell you what, they pay your boys' invoices fast. So please, for the love of God, support Unabated. Link in the description. Use the promo code SPLASH, get $30 off, and that applies on top of their Cyber Monday deal. So check it out, unabated.com. Just click the link in the description and do it. And please do click it. Please do sign up for Unabated. You'll get better bets. You'll get better at betting. And frankly, if you want to do the work and turn their projections into NBA data for yourself to use on slates, you'll probably do well for it as well. We'll do what we always do here and just try to mark everybody in, and I will talk about the guys' likelihoods of playing as we go. Let's sim out some points lines and get you some good bets. They're a big enough site. There's probably a couple ladies. I can tell you on the Splash Play Discord, not a lady to be found. And Pete's got like 2, and he's got a lot more Discord members. So I don't know. I don't know if we're ever going to get that many on the Splash Play side of things. Unabated's probably got a few. Honestly, if I were this is probably not the ad Unabated wants. If I were a Taylor Mathis type, if I just had big old swinging titties and I was like, how am I going to make money in this industry? I would just go to Unabated, use their data, look at the best lines and go, oh, here's my bet of the day as I'm walking around jiggling all over the place. I think that'd be a pretty smart thing to do. So that's another thing here. Let's market to those people. Sign up for Unabated, $30 off. All right. Unabated bets. Let's go. 26.1% expected EV on over 14.5 points for Ivica Zubac. Didn't talk about that game today because it's a FanDuel only game. Clippers in Portland. You're getting that EV on FanDuel Sportsbook over 14.5 points for Zubac. Also getting 18.3% EV on PrizePicks, 10.9% EV on -118 on over 15.5 on Underdog as well. So you can play Zubac's over no matter where you go. Keon Ellis, 14.9% EV. The Keon Johnson, Keon Ellis. I hate them both. Under 5.5 points on FanDuel Sportsbook, plus 100 odds gets you 14.9% EV for Keon Ellis under 5.5 points. Vasily Micic, under 14.5 points. Oh, that sucks. I'm going to play him a lot in DFS, but there's value on the under. Under 14.5 at minus 130 on DraftKings Sportsbook. Gets you 12.8% EV for Vasily Micic. Let's see. James Harden, over 22.5 points. You're getting value on that one. 11.6% EV on FanDuel Sportsbook at minus 113 odds. Not quite playable on DraftKings Sportsbook or PrizePicks, where you do want to see an 8% or higher EV on sim plays, 2% or higher for market-based projections, which they also have as an option on Unabated too. Gary Trent. No, where'd Gary Trent go? Gary Trent, 10.6% EV, under 8.5 points. That one's available on Underdog and PrizePicks right now. Does it look... No, not playable on DK. Gary Trent playable on FanDuel, though. Under 8.5, minus 122 odds gets you 8.9% EV for Gary Trent, under 8.5 points. Jalen Duren just came in as well. Jalen Duren over 8 points, playable on PrizePicks, 13.4% EV for Jalen Duren over 8 points. And FanDuel, you can play that one as well, over 8.5 for Jalen Duren on FanDuel Sportsbook. Donovan Mitchell, under 26.5 points, 10.3% EV for that on FanDuel Sportsbook. You're also getting 9% EV on a PrizePicks or Underdog Pick'em. You're getting Donovan Mitchell under 26.5 there, 9% EV for him on PrizePicks and Underdog. Let's go to rebounds next. We'll see what we got on there. Hartenstein over rebounds. I mean, I have Hartenstein at 13 today, so I presume that's lower than his line. Are we simming? What's going on here? There we're simming. What's Hartenstein at? Oh, they have Hartenstein projected for 11.9. So unabated data definitely lower on Hartenstein than I am. All right, let's see. Let's get every bet in here and then resort the best lines to make sure we have every market for you guys. Of course, we will be doing the DFS lineup sim next, so stay tuned for that. Of course, using the Stokastic data coming up. All right, Kevin Durant, over 6.5 rebounds. Looks good on PrizePicks right now. 24.6% EV for over 6.5 rebounds. Kevin Durant, that is right now. Playable on DK Sportsbook as well with 19.3% EV on there. FanDuel Sportsbook as well, 18.5% EV. I'm confused why there's so much EV on this because there's nobody questionable for Phoenix at this point. So an inefficient line here that probably doesn't account for Nurkic being out would be my guess. Value on under 3.5 rebounds for Jacoby Walter. That one's only on FanDuel Sportsbook. Minus 176 odds. His minutes have been down as well. This does assume that Grady Dick plays, though. If Grady Dick were not to play, Jacoby Walter could theoretically hit this line a little bit more easily. Jalen Green on the FanDuel slate, 16.3% EV for under 4.5 rebounds. That one's playable on PrizePicks. Also looks good to go on DK Sportsbook where it's under 4.5 at minus 125 odds. Gets you 13.3% EV and still playable on FanDuel Sportsbook as well. 10.7% EV for Jalen Green under 4.5 rebounds there at minus 132. Tyus Jones, 15.2% EV on over 2.5 rebounds today. Minus 110 odds on DK Sportsbook looks the best. Still getting 11.4% EV for PrizePicks and Underdog Pick'ems. And is it on FanDuel? Yeah, and 13.7% EV on FanDuel as well for Tyus Jones over 2.5 rebounds today at minus 113. Caleb Martin, 14% EV on PrizePicks over 4 rebounds for that. Caleb Martin looking pretty good, not playable on FanDuel or DK. Brandon Podziemski, no Draymond Green today. The under still looks good for him. Under 5.5 rebounds, 14% EV, playable on PrizePicks, playable on Underdog, and playable on DK Sportsbook as well. 11% EV, under 5.5 rebounds for the line there at minus 125, and still playable on FanDuel at minus 132 for the same under 5.5 rebound line for Brandon Podziemski. Christian Brown, under 4.5 rebounds today, gets you 13.9% EV, plus 105 odds on DK Sportsbooks looks the best, and playable on FanDuel as well at minus 166, under 5.5 is the line there. All right, assists and PRAs coming up next. Of course, there's a lot more lines on Unabated itself. The lines move as well throughout the day. They update the projections. You then can pull them in. So a lot of things here that I can't show you guys that I encourage you guys to check out on your own. Give it a try. Again, promo code in the description or promo code SPLASH. A link in the description though if you want to check it out. All right, we're simming everything here. What they do is sim 10,000 times off the standard deviation and try to find the best lines. And let me make sure we have them all up here. All right. Brandon Miller over on 3.5 assists, -105 on FanDuel Sportsbook, playable as well on PrizePicks and Underdog at -118. And you could play it on DraftKings as well. -120 odds there, but definitely a better play on FanDuel, much more EV. Marcus Smart under 3.5 assists, +106 odds for him. Playable on FanDuel Sportsbook, not quite as playable on DK. Lines are moving around as we speak. Giannis Antetokounmpo, 12.4% EV on over 5.5 assists, -144 odds on FanDuel Sportsbook. PrizePicks, 11.7% EV on over 6 at the same standard, -118 odds on a pick'em. And also, for what it's worth, one of the guys this morning on the Splash Play NFL channel mentioned that he won like $100 on 5 using the same data we ran through yesterday. So look, I'm not doing a good enough job selling on success because I'm just running these live here on stream, but do encourage you guys to tail Unabated here. This is their data. Professional team led by Justin Fan making this stuff every day. And frankly, no disrespect to any of you guys on what you're betting. The bettors here relying on Unabated data, given Unabaded's customer base, are spending a lot more money on betting and using this data like it is gold. So just keep that in mind here. When you have the best bettors giving you signal, always better to tail them, unless they are fucking Vegas Dave, then don't tail them. But Vegas Dave, not doing promos for Unabated, I can tell you that. Kyrie Irving over 5.5 assists, +100 odds, 11.9% EV on FanDuel Sportsbook and DK Sportsbook. Domantas Sabonis under 6 assists, 11.1% EV, playable on PrizePicks in a pick'em there. DK Sportsbook, 9.2% EV at under 6.5, -154. Jalen Green, 10.9% EV on over 2.5. I assume he's not dead. I don't know if he still exists in terms of selling memberships, but given how there's a lot dumber people selling dub clubs, Vegas Dave probably still selling for fucking $1,000 a month in picks. What a racket. And you get this here for free, and it's actually good data. The system is broken. Jalen Green, 10.9% EV on PrizePicks, not playable on DK Sportsbook. Marcus Smart, we talked about. Desmond Bane, 10.4% EV on over 3.5 assists. That's -105 odds on FanDuel Sportsbook, but I would not play it on Underdog and PrizePicks. We've had a lot better lines there. Again, that 8% or more sim EV is what we're looking for. And last but not least, the sweet, sweet PRAs here. Much more at your fingertips. If you're a guy like Rhode Island Sports Bets earlier in the YouTube, I could tell, clearly looking at a lot of markets for himself. Just hop in Unabated, search the things you're looking for at the very least. Same thing we talk about with like DFS lineups and how important it is to have sims if you're like a hand builder, just so you have a fact check on what you're doing. Same thing for Unabated with lines. I would really encourage you guys to check it out. And yeah, I think it will pay for itself as much as these things can. All right. Are we frozen up here? What's going on? I think it's just sim and stuff. All right. Lots of lines to sim. I get that. And the stop button's going, so I presume it is still simming. But let's just go with what we have so far, if it'll let me. There we go. All right, 12.9% EV for Kevin Durant over 34.5 PRAs. That looks good. Looks like the best one on an Underdog pick'em, but the line's a little bit inefficient. Over 34.5 compared to over 35 on PrizePicks. Still playable on PrizePicks with 9.7% EV there. You're also getting 12% EV on over 34.5 PRAs for Durant at -120 odds. Vasily Micic. Oh, I hate to see this. Value on the under. Under 23.5 is the line at -105 odds. Gets you 12.5% EV on DK Sportsbook. Still getting 12.3% EV on PrizePicks at an under 24 line there. Brandon Clark, value on over 14.5 PRAs, 11.7% EV for that. Underdog playable as well for Brandon Clark, over 14.5. That's, I guess, the only line that's good for that one in particular. Şengün, 10% EV on over 35.5 PRAs, -105 odds on DK Sportsbook, not playable on PrizePicks and Underdog. Gary Trent, under 11.5 PRAs, 10% EV for that, playable on PrizePicks and Underdog, not available on DK Sportsbook and FanDuel. John Morant, this one just updated, 11% EV on under 34.5 PRAs for him, -108 odds on FanDuel, and it is actually 33.5 on PrizePicks. So you're getting pretty good value on the under for John Morant today on that bet. Desmond Bane, 9.1% EV on over 24.5 PRAs, -115 odds on DK Sportsbook, and playable. No, not playable on FanDuel. There we go. Let's see. Brooke Lopez, rebounds. Well, I don't know if we're doing requests here, but real fast. Why not? I haven't done this before. Book Lopez rebounds, value on the under and rebounds. So 4.5. Still not a lot of sim EV. They're only 1.8%, but it does look like the under would be favored. And Cat value on the over, 14.6% EV on the over 11.5. Well, we can do that moving forward. If you guys leave me a few requests in the chat before we go all the way through, I could try to hit them, but I think we're done for today here. The tops of the world of DFS sims. Of course, shout out to Unabated. Really do go check them out if you're new to the world of betting or if you're an expert too. Really do think it'll add value no matter what way. And again, a great tool that a lot of very sharp people are using, and that is really my main focus here always, is to show you guys the best tools, myself included. And then hopefully you can find some value. And Ryan, I legit didn't even prepare FanDuel today because I'm not doing Stokastic. So you're never going to get a FanDuel day, but especially today. All right, let's go to Stokastic next. Ryan spamming, it's not going to help, bud. I'm just going to time you out. I love you, Ryan. Just not happening, bud. Only things that I pay for and I play. It's the only way I can keep myself honest. If I start telling you shit that I don't play, we have problems. I think the truth falls apart between the host and the audience, and I don't want to be that guy. But like I just tell you, I'm playing 20 lineups with the $5 for DK because I have a hard time late swapping and shit between Lucas bath time and picking him up from daycare and fucking doing all that stuff. That's a good haul for me. Love getting into good 20 lineups. Can't lie about playing FanDuel. I think I'd rather die than play FanDuel as well. Granted, I'd rather die than a lot of things. I know, Ryan. I know. But I still we got to set the law down. Hey, I'll mute anybody. I've been muting people before Eric Lindquist did. I strongly believe in the importance of having a good community from day one. All right. 30% to first is what is going on in the big DK tournament today. Of course, DraftKings, the only side we play on. I wish DraftKings gave me money. Like, given the fact that I'm like brand loyal to two things, Underdog and DraftKings, drafters occasionally, but like DraftKings just give me them titty money. Give me that sweet titty money. Speaking of, 100 concurrents live. Again, shouts to all the members and all the subscribers and all that. Of course, if you're new around here, I do these videos Monday to Friday at 4 p.m. every day. So please show some love. Subscribe down below. Hit the like button. Of course, I'm going to show you guys the best DFS lineups. If you're tuning in just now, scroll backwards if you want to get the best pick'ems and sportsbook bets right now. Prop bets, of course, that is. But my goal here is to just give you guys the best info I can for every NBA slate. I think we do a good job of it here, and that's my promise every day. So show some love. Subscribe. Trying to get to 500 by the end of this year. That's the goal right now, so we can get this channel monetized, move in the right direction. But hey, couldn't do without Unabated. Couldn't do without Stokastic. 15% off that. $30 off Unabated. Check them both out. All right. Top ROI lineups right now. Your number one. We got Vasily Micic, Isaiah Joe. The $3,700 price tag just works. Scotty Barnes, Jarris Walker, Jarrett Allen, Jalen Brunson, Oso Ighodaro, and Victor Wembanyama. So Stokastic, this is not my data for the record. It's just Stokastic projections. So what the industry will be playing more. I am low on Wemby. This scares me. 3 value guys in the lineup feels a little bit much here, but that's what you're getting. And Micic too, a semi-value. Feel like you're kind of lowering your ceiling with this lineup. That said, that's top ROI one right now. Number 2 is Micic, Jordan Poole, Scotty Barnes, Tejan Salon, Nick Richards, Jalen Suggs, Oso Ighodaro again, Wembanyama. So Oso and Wembanyama in the top 2 lineups along with Micic. Number 3, Micic again, Mikal Bridges, RJ Barrett, Tejan Salon, Jared Allen, Scotty Barnes, Ighodaro, Karl-Anthony Towns. So Micic, Ighodaro, and a pay-up center seems like the approach so far, along with Jared Allen and honestly Salon making them all of them too. Or 2 out of the 3. All right, so Tejan Salon again. Number 4, Vasily Micic, Isaiah Joe, Scotty Barnes, Alexander Sarr, Jakob Poeltl, Jalen Suggs, Jarris Walker, and Wemby again. So getting Barnes again here. So you're getting a Raptor wing in every lineup so far, getting Micic in every lineup so far, pay up center in every lineup so far, Jarris Walker in this one. So Jarris Walker instead of Ighodaro, I guess. Number 5, Micic once again. So Micic going to come up for everybody, I guess. Micic, Jalen Wells, Scotty Barnes, Tejan Salon, Jonas Valanciunas, Cade Cunningham, Ighodaro, and Wembanyama. Boy, tough name slate, huh? But yeah, that's number 5. It's your top 5 ROI lineups. Let's look across the top 150 overall. Check the chats as well. Salon's getting a lot of love lately. The minutes haven't been crazy. The minutes kind of came down. And thank you for this one. Love the channel, bro. I appreciate that, Rhode Island Sports Bets. Thank you for that. Hope you're having a decent winter in Rhode Island, my friend. Would play a lot less on DraftKings if they went that route, if they paid me. I hope not. Looking at Superstore and Scrubs. Too many value guys who should hit. All right, there we go. Superstars and Scrubs, not Superstore TV show. Would I rather play Iguodaro or Walker? I think Iguodaro. I got Iguodaro. I'm low on Iguodaro. I have an 18.1. Jarris Walker. No, you know what? I have Jarris Walker by 0.6. That scares me, man. I'm probably going to get more Jarris Walker than Iguodaro. Iguodaro's in a better situation because he missed Nurkic. There are like center minutes to go around. The issue is like Iguodaro is like a center in the same way Jordan Walsh played for the Celtics the other day as a center, where he's just out there. He's big, but he doesn't really do like that much. So I'm not crazy about Iguodaro. I do feel like it's a little bit of a leak in my process to have him projected lower than Jarris Walker, but projections are the projections. So I am technically higher on Walker than Iguodaro. Your top ROI plays right now: Jared Allen, 2.4% ROI across a 150 set. Luka Doncic, 1.3% ROI across 150. Wemby, 1.3. Jalen Wells, 1. And Oso Iguodaro, 0.2%. Everybody else negative, including Jarris Walker, is pretty close to Iguodaro. But Iguodaro is cheaper too. That's tough. That's tough. Field will be on Iguodaro more, I think, so that makes Jarris Walker appealing. The issue for Jarris Walker is like, I've said this to my pal Josh Engelman before, and I think I feel pretty strongly about it. Walker's like O'Shea Brissett was on the Pacers, where if nobody's playing, he's going to look pretty good because he'll start rebounding, start shooting some more. If everybody's playing, he's just standing around in the wing, hoping to hit a shot. And that's not my favorite for him, but Iguodaro is going to be more played because like people will know there's opportunity there with Nurkic out. So that's sort of the trade-off. Getting a better tournament play in Walker, but like in reality, both are probably not actually good plays. Vasily Micic, you're getting an 82% of lineups compared to the field's 57. Very high leverage on him. 25% leverage with Stokastic data. Scotty Barnes, they have very highly projected. You're getting 71% compared to the field's 67. So he is going to be chalk of all chalk, and they still want you to get more. Dejan Salon, 59% compared to the field's 46. So another very chalky player. They want you to get more. Iguodaro, 45 compared to 16. So almost 3x the exposure on Iguodaro. Isaiah Hartenstein, they're with me on this. 39% Hartenstein compared to 19%. He was in 70% of my pre-show sim lineup. So Hartenstein will be a core play for me. Jared Allen, 39% compared to 16. RJ Barrett, 30 compared to 25. So getting leverage on on Barnes still, with Barnes being a key exposure play for Stokastic today. Your highest leverage plays, they want you to get Iguodaro, 28% more than the field. Micic, 25% more than the field. Jared Allen, 22% more. Hartenstein, 21% more. Wemby is going to be my difference today. I'm just going to have like no Wemby, and he's going to be very popular here. Dejan Salon, 13% more than the field. And Luka Doncic, also 13%, but slightly lower more than the field. I am low on Luka. He's just not been full Luka this year. But you have the longer-term sample size. Hope is that he can get there. I just haven't seen it with how he's played so far, unfortunately. When Kyrie's out, then maybe Luka gets back to being Luka. But I guess your hope is that Najee Marshall being out opens up enough that Luka pushes things, maybe. Miles Turner getting 12% less in the field here. Kevin Durant, 12% less in the field. Brandon Miller, 10% less. Chris Paul, 9%. SGA, 8%. Pascal Siakam, 7%. Jonas Valanciunas, -7. So that's your 150 set here for Stokastic, guys. And that's it for me here. My favorite NBA and NFL team. I don't have one anymore. I just root for gambling. That's how it's been for me for years. Either way, guys, appreciate you all tuning in today. Before we get to my splash plays of the day, the guys that I will make my full-throated stand on, please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Your engagement's going a long way here. It's a brand new channel. Been doing this for a month here. Thanks to our friends at Unabated, but it is a growth pattern here that we got to keep going. I'm going to show up and do the work on my end Monday to Friday at 4 p.m. every day. Please help me out, help this grow. I'm trying to get to 500 by end of year, so show some love and do that. Underdog, $1,000 of bonus cash, whatever. Unabated's the big one, of course. $30 off. Link in the description. You can pair it with their Cyber Monday deals. Stokastic, 15% off, and that's in perpetuity. Check it out. Link in the description, and that does support the show directly. And my splash plays for the day, I think they have to be relative to the exposures, and I'm just going to make sure I'm not missing anybody here. Because I had some really big stands on my data that are not going to change with whatever I do over the next few hours, barring somebody getting ruled out. My top guys, I will advocate for Micic, 83% of my lineups. That's the dude. He's also the dude for Stokastic. Not a big stand there. Brandon Miller is a guy for me. I have some concerns, like I mentioned. If Charlotte doesn't stay competitive in that game, which they should based on the spread, if they somehow don't, given the fact they don't have a lot of dogs left, Brandon Miller may fail. But that said, I think they don't fail here. I think they hang in with Philly. I'll have a lot more. I'll have double the field on Brandon Miller. He's a core play for me. Hartenstein, I'll be more than triple the field on. Stokastic said double. Listen to Stokastic. Be responsible. Play 40% Hartenstein if you want, but I'll be like 70% today. Scotty Barnes, I'm getting a lot of, but I'm lower on the field. I think those would be the big three. Micic, Miller, Hartenstein, and Karl-Anthony Towns as well. Going to be 3x the field on him. So I guess so does be my core 4 splash plays for the day. But hey, I appreciate all you guys hanging out. Look, for a new channel, I'm excited to see the numbers going up. Excited to see new names in the chat. I do appreciate all you guys hanging out here. Wish you guys the best of luck on the slate today, whether you're playing DK or FanDuel. Of course, gamble responsibly. It's always money time. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the show at SplashPlayPod. I'll be back tomorrow at 4 p.m. No Stokastic show for me today. So I'll see you guys then. Enjoy your days. And of course, good luck. Bye-bye.